Mendocino County, welcome. I am Steve from CAMI, and I'm a teacher success champion here to support you. What we're going to do today is talk about the SAMR model and how CAMI can be used to support your students with the SAMR model in the classroom. If you don't know what the SAMR model is, no worries, I got you. But as we go through this, it will be collaborative. You'll get a shared link for you to follow along as we move through this webinar. So cool. So let's go ahead and chat really quick about what CAMI is to get going. So CAMI is your classroom sidekick. It is your go-to. It can be the entire ecosystem of your classroom. And before I go any further, let me go ahead and move myself out of the way. How rude. And let me temporarily move myself completely out of the way, just so you get the full view of what I have in the slide deck here. And so CAMI is, like I've mentioned before, your all-in-one classroom sidekick. It is a Google Chrome extension, and I believe all of you are set up for success at your district with having the CAMI Chrome extension moved out to all of your students and to all of you teachers. So let's talk about what SAMR is briefly. So when we're talking about the SAMR model, what I like to think of this as, and let me go ahead and move over here, kind of get some inking going on here. I like to think of ways of, while using tech, that was terrible. While using technology in the classroom, how can we go and do more than just replace paper? And while using technology for more logistical purposes is nice, it would be good of us as educators moving forward of how we can really use technology to do more in the classroom transformatively. So the SAMR model helps us think about doing that and achieving that. So you'll notice that over here, let me get to my little whoop, right here at the S. That is, I like to start there with the SAMR model through the SAMR. So this first one here is how to simply just use technology as a direct substitution, right? There's no general function. There's no any improvements of the pedagogy with the learning experiences with students. It's simply just replacing that direct substitute. And then the other one here, and we kind of get to the A, is the augmentation of things, right? Technology acts as a direct substitute with some sort of functional improvement, And then the next one here is, let me go ahead and this little M right here. This one is where we look at modification. So what we're doing in the classroom, whether it's something that's a part of a lesson, a project, whatever it is, this is where technology is used for significant task or redesign. And then lastly, this last one here is the redefinition, right? Technology allows for creation of new tasks previously unconceivable without the device, right? Unconceivable without the technology, without the software, without maybe the hardware involved, right? So it's a complete redefinition. Now, it's okay for us to move from the S all the way up to the R at any given moment. And there's no right or wrong answer in terms of how you administer this in your classroom. And we'll talk about that. So with the people that we have in the chat here, as well as you watching this sometime in the future, what I'm going to ask everyone to do is if you can drop into page 5 or 6. You can do it in either location, but I'd like you to use the CAMI tools. And let me make sure that you all have the CAMI tools here by going to my shared icon and going to my feature control. Looks like we have, you have enough. I'll give you a copy and paste. And on the left-hand side, if you can just collaborate quickly, maybe like a sentence of how is EdTech being used simply to replace paper, right? Simply to replace on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, kind of think of creative ways of how you can use technology. And this doesn't have to be CAMI specific, of how EdTech can be used to go beyond replacing paper. So kind of give you a moment, drop down those ideas, and we'll chat about it. Ready, set, go. Yes, digital worksheets. Very common. Digital copies. Hmm. Using software to replace paper, pencil activities, repetition, writing essays, right? So very, very common, right? So instead of just writing an essay on binder paper, let's say, or a blue book, who remembers the blue books back in college? You can just type it out in, let's say, like a Word doc. Yep. Digital posters collab with giant sticky notes. Okay. Okay, cool. So this is where I start to have fun as someone myself that really loved the SAMR model when I was in the classroom and still do. But connecting students with a larger audience. Love this. Bringing in multimedia experiences, 100%. Love that. VR. Yeah. Word processing functions as students compose. Text formatting, spell check for accessibility. Yes. We'll look at all of that. So the accessibility piece, that is a big part of how we can support students transformatively, right? Meeting every learner where they are. Cool. And then let's see if we have anything on this page. Nope, we don't. Um, yeah, so you can simply put any PDF, Google Doc, whatever it is, you can put that up. And I'm going to move my head out of the way here. You can put all that up right into a Cami or a Word doc or a Google Doc, right? And oftentimes, and what I'm speaking to here is, let me make this green. So make brackets right here that are in green. So largely speaking, this is simply just taking a resource and putting it right into the platform, right into a Cami, right into a Google Doc, whatever it is, without doing anything else to it or allowing students to do anything else to it other than maybe just typing, drawing, adding those ideas, as you would if you were, doing it on paper. Cool, cool, cool. I'm gonna go and bring myself back here. There I am. Um, Options for projects besides paper: video, audio, podcast, interviews, images. Yep, good. So with the people that I have in the room right now, it looks like we have a good understanding of what it means to simply use technology to just replace paper. But then on the right hand side of ways of using it to level that experience up, to do a better job of meeting every learner where they are, giving them choice, giving them voice, giving students the accessibility tools that they need to better personalize and customize instruction. With all this in mind, though, with all this in mind, I think sometimes it's really easy to get into the SAMR model and make these early mistakes that I made when I first started teaching in this way. And so here's what I mean by this. Let me, if I can point your attention over to the next major slide here. I love this image right here because for me, and again, I'll move myself out of the way here. I love showing people this because this is a good way to start thinking about the SAMR model before you actually get into it. Now, the mistake that I made, and here, I'll bring myself back temporarily. The mistake I made is I went straight in. I'd already been teaching for a while, but I went straight in. See the deep side of the pool here? all in for the redefinition. And I almost attempted to make every single lesson, every single learning experience with that redefinition being at the forefront. And oftentimes, what that ends up leading to is students getting overwhelmed with the complexity, not of just the technology, but the pedagogy, but the design of it. And do we have to make every single thing this high impact, this inconceivable thing? The answer is no. And I would say, like, not only is, and let me move this over here into the red, not only is starting with the substitution good, but it's often appropriate depending on what you're doing and what you're achieving in that particular lesson or for that particular moment. And it's okay. And again, I'll pick a different color. It's okay to do laps. It's okay to swim back and forth, going from, like, you know what, today we're doing really focusing on the substitution, right? It's okay to really move, and maybe for this other activity, we're really moving into the modification, or maybe doing a hybrid of one or two together. And so, and I love what someone who posted this here. I forget. I don't know who posted this here. But erase that line you've heard about in terms of this dotted line, right? Erase the line and being able to swim freely back and forth, depending on what you need as a teacher and what your students need. Some comments over here to the right. Hey, Mantha. Sorry, I get distracted by engagements. And so, yes, so that's where, and again, when looking at that redefinition and using it all the time, I almost let just ego play a big role with that early on. It was like, I wanted to be the teacher to do all the cool things. But then I realized, like, whoa, my students are getting really overwhelmed, really burnt out. And so that is where I made the purposeful choice of, okay, it's time to kind of go back and forth and doing those laps. Okay, so as we're looking at the SAMR model, let me go back up here, back to this graphic here. So here's my attempt for the rest of the time that we're together here, is showing examples of how I did each one. I can only do one example per substitution. I'll do one example for augmentation, for modification, and redefinition. And even if you don't take these and replicate these right away, maybe it'll inspire a different way to think and to really implement different ways that you're not only using technology, but also Kami. So the first one I have here, boom, 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 is this one right here. So substitution. So what I have here is just an example of how to substitute, right? So that use of technology is being a direct substitution with no functional improvement. So let me click on this link really quick. And if you are in the deck right now, if you could, you can click on this link, because we'll do a quick little collab activity first. No, I'm going to show you something and then we'll collab. I think that's the route I'm going to take. You should not have any Kami tools yet, but this should be no surprise of what I'm about to do. Now, I taught history, I taught government, I taught econ, which is a little mathy, but I'm no math teacher. So I'm going to purposefully pick a math problem that I can do, right? So don't judge me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm going to go over here to my draw tool. I want this size 1. Okay. I'm going to pick this one. And let me change the color here. Yay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to do this math problem. I can do it, friends. I can do it. Yay. Hopefully that's correct. Even if it's not, pretend that it is. Okay. So x equals -17. I could have done this on paper, but I put it in a Kami, right? Gave it to my students, can assign this out, right? But I can easily do that, easily do this on paper, right? Sometimes, though, it's fair to ask the question of, well, if you can do it on paper, why use the technology to begin with? And the answer, it's okay for the answer, being someone that now teaches in adult ed and supports student teachers now in California. I have these conversations with them, and it's okay to say, I'm using the technology for logistical purposes. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're trying to save paper, cool. If you're trying to speed up the grading process, cool. But this is just substitution as it relates to the SAMR model. That's what it is. Now, what I'm going to do now, do a little bit of brainstorm. I'm going to, if you're not aware of this, I'm going to go down to the bottom of this math worksheet. I'm going to add a page on the fly. Do I want a graphic organizer? I don't know. I'm gonna do a blank page. I don't care. So let's just do, we're gonna do a quick brain dump here. So for those that are in the meeting with me here, let it load. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna take this link, make sure that everyone has it. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a quick brain dump on the second page. So if you were to look at this math worksheet in a Kami, how can we, or maybe you, move this assignment away from substitution? And please drop your ideas on the second page. Okay. And let me give you all the tools here. Yeah, sure. Why not? All of it. All of it. So give you a moment there for those that are in the chat, that are in this meeting, or maybe someone watching this in the future. How can you, on the second page, how can you move? What can we do with either the Kami tools or maybe some creativity as a teacher, as an educator, of moving this away from substitution? How can we improve this assignment is what I'm getting at. Give you a moment. Cool. So using voice comment to explain thinking. Yep. Have students create a video to show their thinking. Add a video for support to create scaffolds for students. Allow students to demonstrate understanding, a variety of ways. Yep. Okay, so there's a lot of good ideas here, right? So with the time that we have, I'm going to pick just one good idea. And so what I'm going to do, so if you, in case you don't know, something, I'm going to show you two things. So I'm going to go ahead and use the markup tool, and I'm going to use the text highlighter, right? That's the first option there. You can highlight this. Maybe you want your students to be able to read the instructions and have that really prominent and make it clear that, hey, it's in green. The other thing you can do is if you hover over this highlight I have here, it gives me these options right here. So I can copy and paste this text somewhere else. I can have it read aloud. But what I like to show is there's a little bubble icon right there. I can convert this into a comment, which then now I can be able to write maybe additional instructions or supports, right? You can do that. Now, the other thing that you could do is have your students demonstrate the steps or their understanding of what's going on with a particular math problem, right? I'm going to delete this just temporarily here. But if you go to the comment tool, we have 4 comments. We have text, voice, video, or screen capture. Now, what you could do is have students talk out how they got the answer on letter B for number 1. So all you have to do is click on the video, click right above B, and now it's creating a video. So a student or students can talk out how they got to -17. talk out their thinking, explain, justify the steps that are being made, justify their answer. And then by creating this video and selecting done, now this video gets stored right here for the teacher to see. Maybe it's a collaborative, activity where students are viewing each other's feedback or viewing each other's steps. There's a lot that you can do here. So this is just a little bit of brainstorming here of how we can take something that starts with substitution and how we can move it towards maybe augmentation, modification, whatever the case is. So that's substitution. If I go down here, what I'm going to do, boom, 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 move on to the next one. Okay. Augmentation. So augmentation is where technology acts as a direct substitution with functional improvement, right? So there's some function, there's something about it that is adding a significant amount, or at least a decent amount of improvement. Now, for me as a history teacher, my students did a lot of writing, right? They would be analyzing primary sources, using those primary sources to answer some sort of driving question in the form of an essay. But as we know, grading essays, that can take time. But we always focus, at least like when I was in school, we always focus on like, oh, the teacher's just going to grade. We're really going to focus on the end product, the end game. But I got to a point where like, wait, why aren't we tackling all these errors, all these mistakes, all these misconceptions, not having these supports during the writing process? So Cami was game changing for me with this, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So this really fits into the augmentation of things with the SAMR model, in my opinion. What I'm going to do, you'll notice I have the little Cami K installed at the top right of my browser. Hopefully you have that. I'm going to click on that K, and that takes me to my Cami dashboard. Now imagine that I assign an essay and we're more in the draft stage of it. So students can turn in a draft. Very cool. And let's say they turn it in like with Google Docs, or maybe I had them upload some PDFs and I put it in my drive. What I can do is I can move into my Cami dashboard. I can come over here and it gives me this option that says split and merge. I'm going to click and split and merge. Takes me to this window here. Now, mind you, I have all my essays, all my student essays in my drive. So I'm going to go ahead and select Google Drive right here. Gives me a bird's eye view of my drive. I'm going to come, I have a folder called essay. Now, these are all fake essays, right? They're not real. But imagine that they are. I can highlight all of these from this environment, hit select, and what's going to happen, it's going to move all of these essays into one file, basically. So you see, I have these essays here. I'm going to select next, and it moves every single essay in what I call a different bookshelf. If you want them to be in the same bookshelf, you would have to drag and drop them, put them, but that takes crazy time if you have like 20, 30 essays. You can quickly move up to the very top though, where it says merge mode, and it's going to quickly, by one click, merging all of these essays into one file. And here's why you would want to do that. I'm going to export all of this. I'm going to open it up directly into Cami. Select continue. Let it turn in the microwave. Ding, it's done. I'm going to select open in Cami. And now I have all of these essays in one file for students to collaborate on. Now, remember back in the day when like you would be doing a paper, or you'd be doing something and you'd be like, oh, you finished that math worksheet or you finished that prompt, pass it behind you, have the student behind you review, grade, give a score. You would have to write your initials, right? So that way there's proof. So it's the same kind of idea, except this is a little bit more transformative. Now imagine you have different essays. And imagine like, you know what, I want to give this to students to be able to give each other feedback on their essay. And you can do something like this where maybe you need the scaffolding of like, you know what, for this essay, Sophie's going to review this essay. And then this one, really quick, Avra. And then this one, Margie. And then this last one, Allison. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this with my friends here, with my students. And what makes this transformative, they're going to practice giving feedback by doing things other than text, other than inking. So they're going to show how accessible this can be in terms of giving that feedback, right? Through video, through audio. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share this out with them. I do have the means to click on the control features to be like, you know what? I don't want you using the text box. I don't want you using the drawing tool. You can use everything else though. I don't want you copying and pasting. You're not signing stuff. Okay, cool. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to send this to my friends. And a lot of you are going to have this too. So if your name's on here, you're going to go give that feedback, just fake feedback. It's obviously not, they're not real papers, right? Now, while they're doing that, if you're watching this, San Bern, right? So if you're San Bernardino County right now watching this, here's the thing. What you could do is instead of taking the shared link, dropping the top of your Google Classroom, I believe you all are Google Classroom, you can go over to your menu icon right here, select create assignment, and you can create and make this a whole collaborative assignment. So I can call this essay feedback. And then instead of making a copy, I want this to be a shared copy because I want everyone to be on the same document, giving feedback, reflecting feedback, seeing how someone else is giving feedback, going back and looking at the feedback that was given on your paper, right? So it fosters an enormous amount of learning by doing one simple thing, by putting this all into a Kami, making it one file, sharing it out collaboratively, and letting the learning take place in your room or sometimes outside of your room. So yeah, so this is how you would set it up. You would do the normal build, go into your control features, and then assign that. Not going to assign this, but I wanted to point this out of how you could assign this into Google Classroom, make it an assignment, but do it collaboratively. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we have Sophie here. Fantastic title, right? She's dropping in a voice comment, right? It's like, so we can listen to the voice comment, but here's the other thing you can do. Notice there's a little bubble text icon at the very bottom of this comment. This is if you want to turn on captions. So it's going to generate captions. So someone would be able to hear the feedback, but also see and read the feedback simultaneously. Yep. Giving everyone else some time here. Now, just to be clear, because this may or may not be happening, but so Margie's giving some feedback, awesome feedback. What Margie may be doing though, is, let me come down here somewhere different. Is if you do just use a text comment, there's a little microphone right here where you can click on that microphone, speak, and have it type out the feedback for you. And here's the thing, I'm gonna hit enter. Cool. Here's the thing. In this situation, the feedback is not just on the teacher. The feedback is every single learner in the classroom. There's a level of reflection. There's a level of feedback. There's a level of discussion and collaboration. Yep. It's a good way to talk out what you're thinking if you're having, and adults are this way too, right? If you're having a hard time getting your thoughts onto the page, it's a good way to make that happen. So I hope that you can appreciate how this, in lieu of doing this on paper, because you could do this on paper, this provides a different type of environment for students to learn collaboratively by making the feedback accessible, by whether you're consuming the feedback or you're delivering the feedback, it makes it way more accessible and really easier to use if you're a student who is struggling with writing or who is a rock star, but now they're able to support their peers in a more transformative way. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. So that is my example of augmentation. We'll move on to the next one here. Now we have modification. So this is where technology allows for significant redesign. So here's what you can do. I have this template. This template can be found in our Kami library. So if you go to the Kami Chrome extension, go to the dashboard, browse those templates, or click on Kami library, you can explore these templates at your own leisure. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to close this out because I'm not the person to have a bunch of tabs open. It's not my life. Okay. That one too. Okay, sweet. So modification. So what I'm going to show you here, I'm just going to click on this one. Boom. So this is simply just a storyboard type of template or sequence template that can be found in the library. Now, the reason why I show you this and why I feel this more fits what I'm going to show you within the modification things of SAMR is student podcasting. So a lot of times, and I was doing a lot of student podcasting in the classroom, and students get sometimes intimidated, be like, there's no way I can ever podcast. I can't speak that well, or I'm really intimidated by the technology. Here's the thing, Kami can be a good entry point for students to enter a podcasting project. And there's a really good way to scaffold this as well. So let me show you. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So imagine you're doing a storyboard here, and I'm going to select the text box tool, and a student would be able to come in here and select intro. Now this could be done as an individual student, or you can share it out collaboratively if you want, like I've showed you before. And then maybe you have, topic 1, topic 2. Now, here's what's cool is students can for sure document and maybe put up the initial thoughts or ideas here. Can very well do that. But once they're good to go, once they have ideas maybe on paper or somewhere else, they can start recording a podcast right here. And so the way that they would be able to do that is come over here on the left-hand side where it says Add Media. And by clicking Add Media, I'm going to select the camera tool. Now from this vantage point, I'm going to pick a different camera. Let's do that one. There we go. I'm going to go to record video. Sorry, I'm going to be extra and pick the podcast mic. Yes. So I'm going to go start recording. And now it's recording a video. So I can do my intro. I can, whatever the content is, right? So you can see it's I'm almost 10 seconds in of recording. I'm going to go ahead and select finish recording. And this video gets embedded right into the document. And I can resize it to fit into the appropriate square or box, rectangle. You can play it right here. And then, and you can do several, right? So maybe this is a group project and like someone else is in charge of the next part of the episode. Hit record again, whatever it is. Welcome to the Kami Show. Yes. So finish recording. Sweet. So if this is done collaboratively, sorry, my work friends are making fun of me. I can be dropping in feedback, right? So if I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, student Steve is dropping in videos. I can go in and listen to those videos. I can come in, use the comment tool, and then give him feedback on topic one, giving him feedback on content, on public speaking skills, on maybe transitions, like the rate of, how fast they're speaking. Are they saying the word a whole lot? All of that good stuff. And so I can drop in that feedback. And now if student Steve wanted to, he can come in, delete this video, and do another take of it. Now let's assume that they're done. They have all these videos. It's super cool. So, but this is just the storyboard component of it. What's nice about this and how this can get scaffolded is if I go up to one of the videos right here, see where the three dots are? If I click on the three dots, I can download this video straight to my computer. And yes, it does get downloaded as an MP4, and then you can drop all of these MP4s in more appropriate software to do the editing component of this. So it can be an iMovie or a Wii video. You can use this content to build in transitions, drop in music, do all of that other fun stuff, but it is a good way to get students to start the process, to build the planning of a podcast, to do the prep and the storyboard of it, and perhaps even write a script for it before it even gets to the editing level of it. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the very last thing here. Not the very last thing, but one of the last things. Redefinition. So this is where Steve used to live in redefinition quite a bit, as I mentioned before. So once I got a little bit more with it, though, I would not live in redefinition for every single thing, but I certainly still used it. So this is where technology allows for creation of new tasks, previously inconceivable without the computer, without the technology. So this was done in the context of a process called design thinking, right? This is where a non-linear process of solving a large problem at a school site, a community, institution, whatever the case is, by empathizing, defining, ideating, building a prototype, and then testing that out. If you ever want more details on design thinking, I'm your guy. Later time though. But what I want to show you here is during this process, this project-based learning experience, I would allow students to get support from mentors all over the world. So my students would get support on solving a particular problem from people from Africa, from Europe, from New Zealand, right? From different parts of the United States, to give them that different perspective. This was not possible 50 years ago, right? At least not in this way. And so by doing this and using Kami, using technology, you can streamline the process of building a mentorship program for your students, for your own classroom. So the way I would do this, let me click on this template here, is I would build out, this is another template from the library, where I would have students document what their problem is, right? So depending on what the project is, they would document that here. They would document any data that was collected while they were going through the steps of solving, add different notes, findings, maybe like roadblocks, right? Different issues, and maybe sharing the prototype. What they would do though, is they would come over here and again, use the add media tool to do the recording. And again, not to show this again, but students will be able to talk out and be able to share all this. Alternatively, the other thing they can do is if they go to the comment tool and go to screen capture comment, they can click on this blue box where I would have the video go, and it will allow them to share their screen. And so it's making a video now, but it's capturing my screen. If I go to a different tab, maybe to a library database, maybe to like a spreadsheet to where they have data collected, and you want to teach them how to do all of this ethically, right? And it doesn't have to be project based. It can be any type of mentorship build that you have in a classroom, but it's a good way to document their findings before this goes out to the mentors. So what you can do is you have it all saved up. Students could share this out to you by clicking on the little molecule icon, copy, and then now it's copied, you can take that link and send it out to a list of mentors. For me, it was a hybrid of local mentors and global. And then from here, what they can do is then they can use the Kami tools to engage with students, to use a voice comment, to perhaps reply to the screen capture comment with feedback and thoughts, right? And be able to foster an environment asynchronously with time zones in mind for people to help and support and engage your students as they're going through the project-based learning experience, and for me, as they're going through the steps of design thinking. Okay, that may have been a lot of information. So just to kind of tie all this up in a nice bow, a lot of the work here really was inspired by things like the ISTE standards, both for teachers and students, using the 4 C's to really use creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration in the classroom. And also, as a project-based learning person myself, project-based learning was also a big piece of a lot of the strategies that I showed you today. And for me, ultimately, the tool itself, the Kami, the Google Doc, the Word doc, whatever it is, at the end of the day, is just a tool. It comes down to how we're using the tool, what choices are being made, how we're thinking about pedagogy and engaging students and supporting students. That comes first. So hopefully you're able to get a little bit of knowledge, nuggets, tips on how you can think differently with the SAMR model while using technology in your classroom. The rest of the slide deck that will be shared out with you has additional resources, stuff like the Kami library, get Kami certified, stuff of that nature. You can find us on social. Here is my contact. My good friend Caitlin, she's your customer manager for your school district. So feel free to anytime book a time with her or me or both. It's all good. And the one thing I'm going to leave you with, if you wouldn't mind, is the reflection and what's up next. So you can click on this link if you wish. I'd love to hear from you in terms of what you got out of this session. So I believe this is going to be wide open for quite some time. Yep, you have all those tools there. So I'd be really keen to hear what your favorite moment was from this session, what you want to share or maybe try the next Monday that you have students in the room with you. And then what is your current mood in a snapshot from this session? Okay. Feel free to drop that in. Very keen to hear from you. And last but not least, Kami loves getting feedback. You hit that QR code. Give me feedback on this session for me, because I'm trying to grow over here at Kami. And then for Kami at large and all of the teacher success champions that are here, getting that feedback on how we can grow with respect to supporting all of you teachers all over the country and all over the world. Bye-bye. Take care. And don't be a stranger. Talk to you.